So I've been thinking about putting together a live set for techno. That means hardware, preferably hardware only, no laptop, just a bunch of boxes that can create amazing techno sounds that could work all together as a set in the setting of a techno club, and preferably also maybe to be able to jam with other electronic musicians. So for a project like this, there is no one way to do it. This inevitably has to be a process of research, of trial and error, of bringing in a bunch of options, playing around with them to see how they make me feel, until eventually we can do something credible in the world of techno. So I have this interest to do this, and I have this YouTube channel where I'm sure many of you are trying out very similar things. So why don't you come along on the journey? I'm going to journal a little bit my process. You're going to see me do some trial and experimentation. In this research phase, it's going to be a lot of looking at hardware, noodling around on a lot of hardware. And so I'm going to give you a lot of opinions about hardware, none of which is going to be influenced by sponsors at all. And you're also going to see me jam quite a bit. And so what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to make sure that the YouTube videos have very clear timestamps and chapters, so that if you're not that interested in the noodling and you just want to see the juicy bits, that you can skip ahead and do that. But some of you perverts are actually here for the music, God forbid. And so why not watch some of that while you're at it? Anyway, I've sourced a bunch of new equipment. Let's hook it up and see what I can do. So this week we added 2 battering rams. Today we added the WMD performance mixer, the Oxy Meta, the Oxy sequencer. So the triggers come from out of here into there, into whatever I want, come back into the mixer, come back into this master effects thing that can create big risers and crashers and stuff, and that goes out and into my computer where this is recording. Simultaneously, I also want to make sure that I test some external gear, such as the 909, but also the guest star of today. Another box. This isn't going so well. A smaller box. Oh, the Yomox Alpha Bass. Oh. Quick story about this particular Alpha Bass. I was in Berlin a few weeks ago, and I went to Berghain, and I had an incredible weekend. And a few days later, still glowing from that experience, I walked to Schneidersladen, which was also the first time I went to actually the physical store. And I could sense that there was something waiting for me in Schneidersladen. Some specific object just had my name on it. And as I walked in, right inside was this Alpha Bass. I hesitated to buy it because the MK2 of this is actually about to come out. But since there's been a lot of delays in the actual publication of that one, I wrote to Schneidersladen and I was like, please just send me that one exact unit that I was looking at, that I played with for so long. I need it in my life. Which is a very similar story to how I got this one as well. Also after a big festival experience that sort of changed my life. So it's good to feel spiritually that these units kind of come to you at the right time. Anyway, let the research officially begin. So there we go. That's a totally viable little live set up with some very simple layers. I drew a little diagram. Maybe let's have a look at it together. So the main voices in this thing are the battering ram for the kicks and a second battering ram for low toms. So they together form the low end. Then I've got the Moog DFAM as a main synthesizer voice in the mids. And I've got the entirety of the Jomox Alpha bass on duty doing highs. And in that little demo, I even used some TR-09 for some of those 909 sounds. So basically low, mids, and highs, the Shackmat kicks, the DFAM synth, and the Jomox Alpha bass. I'm running those into a WMD performance mixer. And on the master output, there's an Oxy Meta for some DJ style effects at the end. So those big reverb sweeps or big delay builds. By the way, 3/4 of everything that I'm saying now is basically direct recommendations from Eric Surco, right? Surco from his channel. If you are at all into live set design, Surco is the place to go. He's the guy with all the experience and the wisdom, and he was so generous to share some of his knowledge with me. We also have a Strummen Magneto as a send and return channel. Also, that can do these really sort of big feedback loops of delays. So to create these big energy washes, we've basically got the Magneto and we've got the Oxy Meta. And basically the brain behind the whole thing is the Oxy One sequencer. This little sequencer right here is sending MIDI out to the alpha bass. It's sending gates and triggers and pitches to all the elements here. So it's taking care of all the patterns, all the sequencing, what note goes where. And in the case of the DFAM, it also has some pretty cool generative melodies. So each of these steps has like a percentage chance to be triggered, and that creates these slightly unstable melodies. I'm not even using the internal sequencer of the DFAM. I'm literally just using it as like a synth voice at the moment. And so that gives me a lot of options to play with, and I need to get better with just these tools. And honestly, it could actually be done here. But yesterday when I was messing around, I was recording a lot of layers from this into a track. And one thing that I noticed is that it's very easy for the kick to get lost underneath all of these other elements. And so in techno, I feel like that's not something I want to compromise on. I really want to keep that kick front and center. And so I've basically added in this one unit, this Aikido unit that I bought a long time ago. It's by Bastel Instruments. And basically it's just like a little mixer. It's a little 4-channel mixer, but whatever is on channel A acts as like a trigger for a sidechain. And so everything else gets out of the way of channel A. So channel A is the kick, channel B is the low tom, so the second kick, channel C is the DFAM, and channel D is the alpha bass. And so I can set on those channels individually how much I want them to pump relative to the kick. And then from there, they run back into the performance mixer. So everything is kind of pre-sidechained as it arrives into the performance mixer. So that's my little diagram. And this is honestly a playground that is enough for me. It's enough to get started and to experiment. And I could think of a million things to add. Like for example, I've got the electron analog rhythm, which I honestly thought was going to be the core of a live set. And I might bring it in, but in this case, I might use it to trigger interesting samples, different textures, things like vocal timbres. I don't know what exactly. Maybe some chordal stuff, maybe use it like a synthesizer. I don't know. There's so much that you can do once this basic infrastructure is in place. And I feel like the basic infrastructure is now in place. I think another challenge that I'm going to face is how to segue between different musical ideas. Because, for example, when this thing is playing, it's all good and well. You can make it grow by throwing it into the magneto. You can even make it climax by setting the repeats to too high, creating this kind of a drone. This is awesome. Take it away, it's great. Make the elements sound small, that's also great. But then, do you just go from here to a naked kick drum and then bring in a new melody? Or do you kind of build up a new motif idea behind the scenes, and then as you bring this one out, you bring in the new motif idea? It feels like that is the way to do it. I just need to get good. I just need to get good. It's an instrument, you gotta learn how to play it. I would actually love to show this to Surco right now and see what he thinks.
It was awesome to watch your stuff and see how excited you are about like the live stuff. Like it totally comes through the video. You're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it's the best. That's like, it's my favorite thing about teaching this stuff is that when things click with people, it's so exciting to be able to actually get those sounds that you hear. Like you hear it in a club or you hear it in a show, and then all of a sudden you're getting it out of your gear. And like the excitement and the energy is amazing. I love it.
I've never cursed so much in a video before as the one I published today.
But that's good. That's good when they just come out because you're like, man, this is the thing.
No, it's amazing. Thank you so much for your mentorship in this.
Not at all. It's fun. Like I said, I get back when I see how excited people are. Like that's the most fun part about it because I have that much fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's times when I'm having so much fun playing live that I'm like, man, other people shouldn't have this much fun. Like, this is really like, more people should do this. So
That's a great sentiment, man. That's a great sentiment. Based on the last video that I just sent you, what is like one advice that you could give me? If you had one piece of advice for my next chapter of exploration.
if I had one piece of advice, I think it's a one-word piece of advice that was just in your question. Exploration. Like, screw around with your stuff. A problem that people have too often is they'll set something a certain way and then they'll leave it that way forever. And it's because they get too overly concerned early on with trying to make things sound good. And I always try to encourage people, make things sound horrible, like mess it up. Find like the craziest, wildest, most disgusting sound you can make with your gear. And that's gonna teach you where the limits of your gear are, what it can do, what it can't do. And in that exploration, you're gonna find weird stuff that no one else has ever found that's gonna find its way into your performances in your production. And that's gonna become the sound that you do. That becomes your kind of signature sound. But if you don't ever explore, if you just kind of, it's like, oh, the kick should always sound this way. Oh, the melody's this, a bass line should sound like a 303 or whatever. And you make it be that one thing, that's as far as you'll ever go. It's kind of like if you only ate one food for the rest of your life, right? You might survive, but you don't know if you're gonna like something until you try some weird off the wall thing.
That's such a good advice.
No one would know that they loved moule frites if they never had them, if they got grossed out by the idea. And then they would have them and say, this is one of the best things in the world.
You really know how to talk to a Belgian.
You already have moule frites, you already have the best chocolate. It's like, leave something for the rest of us to be good at. Right. But you do have my favorite beer in the world, by the way.
Is there one specifically that comes to mind?
I mean, my personal favorite beer in the whole world is the Trappist Rochefort 10.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
amazing.
For me, that is the beer of the world. That is the best beer,
At the
for
end of
sure.
all this, I'm going to send you a bunch of them, just as I
No, so what we have to do at the end of this, I was thinking about this the other day. At the end of this, the next time I come back to Europe, we have to hang out and play together.
We should.
We have to sync our
100%.
gear together and
Fuck,
just jam.
Yeah.
And that would be super fun. And it would be even more fun if we were surrounded by a whole bunch of really good Belgian beers. And then we'll
really
just
would.
jam.
Yes. I would love that. I would love that.